At 9:17, an unplugged baby monitor crackled in Elin Marlow's hand. A woman began reading in a soft, patient voice. Elin snatched up the receiver, ran along the upstairs hallway, and pushed open Lily Halden's bedroom door. The 8-year-old was asleep beneath 6 stuffed rabbits. Above the hallway, the attic door remained shut behind a security chain. Less than an hour earlier, Ruth and Dorian Halden had given 19-year-old Elin 3 instructions before leaving him alone with their daughter. No food after 9. Keep the baby monitor beside him. Never open the attic door. Elin had laughed at the last instruction. Ruth did not. She threaded the chain through the attic latch, pulled it tight, and slipped the only key into her handbag. Before following Dorian downstairs, she faced Elin beneath the attic door. If Lily says someone is upstairs, she told him she is dreaming. Elin needed the money. So he watched the Halden's car disappear beyond the trees and locked the isolated house. At 9, he put the remaining food away and checked the front door again. The lock held. The rule about food had changed nothing. And the chained attic remained directly above the upstairs landing. Lily was already in bed, arranging 6 stuffed rabbits in a row across her pillow. She left a 7th space between them. When Elin pointed to the gap, Lily touched the empty sheet. That one belongs to Mara, Lily said. 17 minutes later, the baby monitor beside Elin crackled. The woman's bedtime story came through the receiver with each word clear, above the rain tapping the windows. Elin hurried upstairs and found Lily asleep. The matching monitor on her dresser was unplugged. But the woman continued speaking through the unit in his hand. The story followed a babysitter entering a beautiful house and discovering a chained door. It described Lily's bedroom, the 6 rabbits, and the rain outside. It even mentioned the green stain on Ellen's sleeve and the cracked screen of his phone. The narrator paused. He looked up. Elin kept his eyes on the unplugged monitor. He refused to follow the instruction. 3 slow footsteps crossed the ceiling above him, pressing dust from the edges of the attic door. Elin lifted Lily from the bed and carried her downstairs. With the monitor on the kitchen counter, he called the Haldens. His phone rang until the call went to voicemail. Before the recorded greeting could finish, Ruth's voice whispered through the monitor instead. Elin, we never left the house. Upstairs, metal scraped against wood. The attic chains struck the floor. Elin set his phone beside the receiver and tested the front door. It was still locked from inside. Through the rain-streaked glass, he saw the Halden's car at the end of the driveway. Both front doors stood open, and the headlights shone through the downpour. No one was near it. Lily woke in his arms and looked toward the ceiling. Mara wants her turn, she said. Elin asked who Mara was. Lily pointed toward a framed photograph on the mantel. It showed the Halden family standing outside the same house 10 years earlier. Between Ruth and Dorian stood a teenage girl with Lily's eyes. Someone had scratched a circle around the girl's face. Elin turned the frame over. Faded ink on the back read, Mara Halden, 2001 to 2018. The date could not fit Lily's claim that Mara still read to her every night. The monitor crackled again. In the story, the babysitter carried the child into the kitchen and discovered that all the knives were missing. Elin turned toward the wooden knife block beside the stove. Every slot was empty. He placed Lily beneath the kitchen table and pulled the fireplace poker from beside the cold hearth. This time, he waited to see whether refusing the story's next action would stop it. The attic door creaked anyway. A strip of yellow light spread across the upstairs landing, although the attic had no electricity. Something stepped onto the staircase. One careful footfall followed another. Bare feet appeared first, pale against the wood. A white nightdress followed. The figure resembled Mara in the photograph. But she looked older than she should have been, and every joint pressed sharply against the fabric. 6 stuffed rabbits hung from her belt by their ears. Mara's face remained hidden behind an open children's book. She descended another step and said, "You skipped a page." Elin swung the fireplace poker. Before the iron reached her, Mara folded backward. Her spine bent until her head hung upside down between her knees, but the open book stayed upright in her hands. The monitor described Elin's next movement before he made it. He stopped, changed his grip, and raised the poker from the opposite side. The voice corrected itself and announced that movement too. Listening allowed the story to stay ahead of him. Elin hurled the receiver into the sink. Its plastic case shattered against the metal basin. But Mara's voice continued from every heating vent in the kitchen. Breaking the monitor had only spread the narration throughout the house. Lily crawled out from beneath the table and walked toward the staircase. "She can't finish without me," Lily said. Elin caught Lily around the waist before she reached the first step. In the dark kitchen window, the reflection in his arms was not a child. Ruth Halden appeared on the other side of the glass, pounding silently with both palms. The chained attic was not simply holding Mara inside. The chain had bound the attic to one unfinished night. The monitor, the girl on the stairs, and the unaging Lily all repeated parts of Mara's story. Every new babysitter was forced toward the empty role, while Ruth and Dorian remained trapped in reflections and recorded voices until someone completed the ending. Keeping one arm around Lily, Elin searched the mantle drawers. Beneath old receipts he found a bundle of police notices. Mara had disappeared while babysitting Lily 8 years earlier. The notices showed the same 8-year-old Lily who had been sleeping upstairs that night, and who had never aged. 6 more babysitters had vanished afterward. Each notice included a photograph of the Halden house. In every newer photograph, another stuffed rabbit appeared in Lily's bedroom window. 6 missing sitters. 6 rabbits. The empty space on Lily's pillow had been left for Elin. The voice in the heating vents reached the final paragraph. The babysitter opened the attic door and took the empty place. The chain already lay on the floor. But the story still needed Elin to approach the doorway and accept the role himself. He had obeyed the food rule, kept the monitor close, refused to look up, and never touched the attic latch. None of those choices had ended the night. Lily struggled toward the stairs. Elin held her tighter. Whatever the child in his arms had become, he would not carry her to the attic and complete Mara's version of the story. He covered Lily's ears and shouted over the voice in the vents. The babysitter left the child alone. Mara froze halfway down the staircase. Every door in the house slammed at once. Glass cracked in the mantel photograph. Overlapping voices screamed through the heating vents, and Lily began to cry. The first genuine emotion she had shown all night. Elin repeated the new ending. He told the story backward, contradicting each event faster than Mara's voice could correct him. The missing knives slid back into the wooden block. Outside, the Halden car rolled backward up the driveway with its doors closing. Upstairs, the fallen chain lifted from the floor and threaded itself through the attic latch. Mara climbed the stairs in reverse, still folded backward, her hidden face turned toward Elin. Each reverse sentence forced her one step closer to the attic. The house snapped back toward the moment when Mara had first broken the night open. At the top of the stairs, the children's book slipped from Mara's hands and landed open on the floor. Every page was blank, except the last. A photograph showed Elin asleep in his own bedroom. In the ceiling above his bed, a small attic door stood open. Mara lowered the book, revealing a smile. Stories follow the person who finishes them. Elin released Lily, charged up the stairs and drove his shoulder into Mara. He shoved her backward through the attic doorway, slammed the door, and pulled the chain tight through the latch. The yellow light vanished. At the same instant, the front door burst open below. Ruth and Dorian stumbled into the house, soaked by the rain and bleeding from both palms. Their faces had aged 8 years since Elin had watched them leave. Ruth seized Lily, but the child in her arms collapsed into 6 stuffed rabbits and an empty white nightdress. The real Lily had died on the same night Mara disappeared. Mara had tried to save her by writing a story in which morning never arrived. Ruth and Dorian had kept hiring babysitters because each new reader held the false night together a little longer and kept it sealed behind the attic door. Elin left before dawn. He refused the Halden's money and burned the police notices in a roadside bin, watching the pages blacken around Mara's photograph. When investigators later entered the empty Halden house, the building plans showed no attic. 3 weeks later, Elin woke in his own bedroom to baby monitor static beneath his bed. He reached into the darkness and pulled out a receiver he had never brought home. He had never opened the attic door. But he had finished Mara's story, and the photograph on its last page had followed him. A woman's voice began reading softly. The babysitter believed he had changed the ending. Above him, a tiny chain slid free.